complicated things in Word to use or to get a grasp of. They're not hard to actually insert, however, they're a little bit tricky sometimes. So we're going to talk about section breaks. So just to start off with a really basic example, let's say I have a document. It's a few pages long. And my first page has text and everything looks okay. Now I've just put in a simple page break here, and I'll show you that by clicking Show Hide. We talked about that in a different video. You can see here there's a page break. And then on this next page, I have an image of the globe. And what's happening is parts of my image are getting cut off. So this would be better suited for a landscape page rather than a portrait page. And if I go down below that, page 3 again is just text, and page 4 is text, and so on. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this one page with the image and make it landscape. Now here's the problem we run into. If I go to that page, and I go to page layout, okay, and on the page layout tab I use orientation and I switch it to landscape. And I go, oh, look at that. Looks great. It's now landscape. Fits nicely on the paper. You can fit it even within the margins. Better yet, looks good. If you look at your other pages, they have also gone landscape. So this didn't do what I wanted. It essentially changed the entire document to a landscape page. And this is because we would need to utilize something called section breaks here to break the document into sections, which will allow you to change things like margins, orientation, different headers and footers, essentially any document settings that you would want to change on a page by page or a section by section basis. So here's what I'm going to do to start. I'm going to delete these page breaks that we put in here. So I need to separate the image onto its own section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click below the first piece of text, and on the page layout tab you have a button here called breaks. So you have all the normal types of page breaks. You have a page, column, or text wrapping break. Those are your straightforward breaks. Then you have your section breaks. Now let me explain these. Next page is the exact same thing as a page break, except it will also break the section. Continuous does not affect any content in your document, but it does break the section. So it doesn't work like a page break. It's not going to force items onto the next page, but it will break the section wherever your cursor is. An even page break will break content to the next even numbered page, and an odd page break will break content to the next odd numbered page. And you would use odd page break quite often at the end of a section or end of a chapter. I typically, in a book type setting, when I'm printing double-sided, I want a new chapter to always start on that right-hand side or that right-hand page. So you can use an odd page section break to do that. In this example, I'm going to use next page. So you'll see it says section break next page, and it did break the information to the next page, just like a page break. I can do that same thing to the information below here. And so I've achieved essentially the same thing that we had from before, except I'm using section breaks now instead of page breaks. So now that we've achieved that, what I can do is I can go to this page with the image that I want it to be landscape. I'm going to go to my orientation. I'm going to choose landscape. Now actually one thing I want to point out is my cursor is on this page. So my cursor is in the section I want to switch to landscape. Choose landscape. I can see that it's done that one page, and my image fits nicely on it. I can again reposition it on the page where I want it to be. I'll just zoom out here so you can see this a little bit better. There we go. And so you can see page 1 has remained portrait, page 2 has gone to landscape where I have my graphic, and then page 3 has remained portrait as well. And that's because we broke the document into 3 sections. Page 1 is section 1, page 2 is section 2, and the remainder of the pages are section 3. And you can apply this to headers and footers, which we'll talk about in the next video. And you can apply it to different settings, margins, orientation, all these types of options that we have on the page layout tab. So using section breaks is a very powerful tool in Word. We just have to practice a little bit to get used to them. And they can be very, very useful tools in those larger documents or documents that I want to manipulate into different sections.